Hello everyone. Uh, Welcome to yet another discussion of the uh, test number 7 GS. Okay, let's start with the first question. We will go into as to how the answer should be written rather than focusing too much on what should be written, because I believe that a lot of you who are attempting this test have already gone through the basic reading material. So let's start with the first question. Explain the transfer of powers as per the 73rd and 74th Act, and do you believe that progress has been below expectations? So, as you know, the 73rd and 74th Amendments established the rural local bodies and urban local bodies. In rural area, they established a three-tier system. Furthermore, they added the 11th and the 12th schedule. In 11th schedule, there were 29 subject. There are 29 subject, and in 12th there are 18 subject. This is the basic. So you will start this answer with an introduction that in India, 73rd and 74th amendments added or provided for the third tier of the government, and this third tier has been responsible or has been given the responsibility of administration of the rural area and the urban area based on the subjects mentioned in the 11th and the 12th schedule. Now, transfer of power you would mention there are x number of subjects and y number of subjects in 11th and 12th schedule. You would mention that there are some mandatory provisions which were made, and there were compulsory provisions which were made, and there are some voluntary provisions which were made. Now come to the second part of the question. Do you think it has been performed below expectations? So you would write here that there were two objectives of the act. One was the governance, and the second was representation. ठीक है? The second was representation. Now the representation aspect has been better than expectations because it provides for 33% reservation for women. However, some states, even 20 states, have given 50% reservation going above 33%. It provides for the reservation for the scheduled caste and scheduled tribe communities, है ना? That has also led to their equal participation or proportional representation. It has led. So on the representation front, this has done well. When it comes to governance issues, now let's talk about it. What are the challenges which has come? So what does the question say? Do you believe that progress of this devolution process has been below expectations? Now there are three issues in the devolution. One is of funds, second is of functions, and third is of functionary. When it comes to fund, 1.1% revenues are from their own tax sources. 3.3% is from own or self known tax sources, and 95% funds comes from devolution. In that, 80% are devolved from the central government and 15% from the state government. These are the data and facts. Second issue is that the devolved funds are mostly tied funds. They are tied to any scheme, they are tied to any program, they are tied to some kind of reform. That has led to less breathing space for these bodies to spend on the things they want to do. ठीक है? Second is the functionary aspect. Now, when it comes to functionary, they do not mostly control the cadre of the officers. They do not control their transfer. They do not control their posting. That is still with the uh, permanent executive. That has again led to issues. Next is functions. The 29 subjects which were mentioned in the 11 schedules, a lot of state has not devolved that. They have been reduced in the terms of function to program implementation agencies. And third, their work is being given to a lot of parastatal bodies. Matlab, let's say you have the program of uh, Smart India Mission. So for a Smart India Mission, who should have done that Smart India Mission program? Who should have implemented it? Urban local bodies and rural local bodies. है ना? या स्मार्ट सिटीज मिशन की हम बात करें तो who should have done that? Urban local bodies should have done that. However, for that special purpose vehicles has been created, and that has led to uh, sort of diversion of the functions too. पहले दिया ही नहीं, जो दिया उसमें भी अलग अलग बॉडीज बना दी. थर्ड, दे हैव बीन रिड्यूस्ड टू प्रोग्राम इंप्लीमेंटेशन एजेंसीज एक्सेट्रा. सो दीज इश्यूज आर देयर इन द फंड फंक्शन एंड फंक्शनरीज devolution of the bodies. Now what is the solution? Whatever is the problem is the solution. Give control, give administrative control, है ना, give more untied funds, ask them to collect their own funds, है ना, create bonds, है ना, for getting the money. These are all the solutions. So introduction. Second part, how has been the transfer or what has been the transfer. Third part, do you believe? So positive aspect, representation aspect, good, but governance aspect not good. Why not good? Fund, function, functionary, 3 heading. ठीक है? Then some solution, and then conclude that India wants to be a Viksit Bharat by 2047. That is why we need to ensure that the third tier of the government or the third level of governance also become Viksit. ठीक है जी, ये हो गया आपका पहला सवाल. दूसरा, सुप्रीम कोर्ट हैज हेल्ड दैट फंडामेंटल राइट्स आर अमेंडेबल. पहले तो अमेंडेबल हैं, ये सवाल ने बता दिया, ठीक है, वेरी गुड, बट नॉट द बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर ऑफ द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन. What are the challenges associated with amending fundamental rights without violating the basic structure? Now, पहले तो basic structure होता क्या है? क्या होता है basic structure? Supreme Court of India in Keshwanand Bharati case has held that there are certain skeleton muscles or skeletal bones, and I'm paraphrasing, I'm changing the words. There are certain features which, if you remove from the constitution or which you amend, will lead to complete change in the character of the constitution. And since the constitution only allows for amendment, है ना, the constitution does not say कि use article 368 to delete me completely, है ना. So something which is of something which allows only amendment cannot be used to destroy the constitution. So the Supreme Court has said that these basic structures of the constitution you cannot tamper with, you cannot do away with, you cannot change. So for example, judicial independence, federalism, secularism, these are all part of the basic structure and you cannot amend those. Before Keshwanand Bharati case, in Golaknath case, सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने क्या बोला था? तो सुप्रीम ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट हैज सेड कि आप फंडामेंटल राइट्स को अमेंड नहीं कर सकते, लेकिन इस केस में बोला अमेंड कर सकते हो भाई साहब, यू कैन अमेंड इट, हाउएवर यू कैन नॉट अमेंड बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर. अब प्रॉब्लम क्या है? देयर आर सो मेनी पॉलिसीज या देयर आर सो मेनी प्रोग्राम्स जो वेलफेयर स्टेट के लिए जरूरी हैं, बट वो किसी ना किसी का फंडामेंटल राइट वायलेट करेंगी. दे वुड वायलेट समबडीज फंडामेंटल राइट्स. सो फॉर एग्जांपल, देयर इज एन एक्सेप्शन to article 39b and c that they can they cannot, or they can be allowed to sort of be above Article 14 and 19. These are the problems with a lot of other provisions. So पहला provision ये है कि if you want to implement some welfare measure that might come in conflict with the fundamental right, and that can also be part of basic structure, है ना? So you cannot amend the fundamental right, or you cannot amend certain basic structures to provide for the fundamental right. That is the first issue. Second issue ये है, अगर फंडामेंटल राइट्स को चेंज करते हो तो उससे बहुत सारे और तार जुड़े हुए हैं जो फंडामेंटल राइट्स को सबसर्विएंट बना सकते हैं, लेकिन फंडामेंटल राइट्स बहुत सारी चीजों से ऊपर हैं. उदाहरण के तौर पर the Honorable Supreme Court has said that there is a balance between DPSPs and fundamental rights, and that balance cannot be allowed to tempered with. ठीक है जी. तो ये जो बैलेंस है इसको बनाए रखते हुए अमेंडमेंट करना पड़ेगा. तीसरा है, बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर खुद ही डिफाइन नहीं है. बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर सुप्रीम कोर्ट केस टू केस बेसिस पे डिफाइन करता है. अगर आपने फंडामेंटल राइट कुछ बदल दिया, कल को पता लगा वो बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर का पार्ट बोल दिया, तो या तो डिफाइन कर लो, बता दो कि वो फंडामेंटल राइट्स का बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर में क्या क्या चीजें हैं, है ना. सो दैट इज अनदर इशू. थर्ड इज, amendment of fundamental rights can lead to high politicization of the issue. That can lead to pressure from the various groups. That can also lead to some sort of issues in the law and order, है ना. And Supreme Court, अगला issue है तो Supreme Court do not have the capacity or do not have the bandwidth to deal with the managerial law and order situations of the fallouts. जैसे आपने एक फंडामेंटल राइट बोला कि ये बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर का पार्ट है, अब इसको आप अमेंड नहीं कर सकते, है ना. आपने आज बोल दिया, इसकी वजह से लॉ एंड ऑर्डर सिचुएशन भड़क गई. जैसे सपोज करो ये रिजर्वेशन का मुद्दा है, बड़े सेंसिटिव इश्यूज हैं, है ना. अब इससे कौन डील करेगा, है ना. तो इसलिए कई बार वो ओवररीच लगने लगती है जुडिशरी की, ना कि बैलेंसिंग ऑफ फंडामेंटल राइट्स. तीसरा इशू है, या अगला इशू है कि जो बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर है वो जुडिशरी की खुद की इन्वेंशन है ना. खुद की इन्वेंशन होने की वजह से देयर आर इश्यूज, जैसे द ऑनरेबल वाइस प्रेसिडेंट हैज सेड इट अगेन एंड अगेन कि दैट इज नॉट, अभी रिसेंट में भी बोला है कि the parliament has the right to amend it. How can Supreme Court say no to it? And that has led to a lot of issues regarding separation of power and conflict between the legislative and the judiciary. ठीक है भाई साहब. ओके, नाउ ये इश्यूज आते हैं जब आप फंडामेंटल राइट्स को अमेंड करते हो तो बैलेंस बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर के साथ तालमेल बैठाने में. और क्या इशू है? और इशू ये है कि द ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट हैज बीन वेरी लिबरल इन इट्स इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ द फंडामेंटल राइट्स. जैसे राइट टू स्लीप आर्टिकल 21 में जोड़ दिया, वो सपोज करो बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर का पार्ट है, तो उसको कैसे एस्टेब्लिश, कैसे मतलब आप चेंज कर सकते हो, है ना. तो जो एक्सपेंशन हो रहा है राइट्स का, अदर देन द लिटरल मीनिंग विच इज गिवन इन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन, that has led to a lot of uncertainty. ये सब issues हैं. फिर भी हम ये नहीं कहेंगे कि ये सब खराब है, इसको सब बदल दो. No, we will say despite all the issues, basic structure has been a very or has been the cornerstone of safeguarding the Constitution of India, है ना. And this is why it is necessary to ensure that basic structure remains, and whenever there is a need, है ना, ऑन केस टू केस बेसिस वी कैन सी वेदर समथिंग कैन बी अमेंडेड और नॉट. इस तरह से कुछ बैलेंस का बीच का करके कंक्लूड कर देंगे. सो इंट्रोड्यूस कैसे करेंगे इस सवाल को कि बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर कब आया, केशवानंद भारती में आया, उससे पहले क्या सिचुएशन थी, 2-3 लाइन में उसको समेट देंगे. फिर दूसरे पार्ट पर आएंगे, चैलेंजेस क्या हैं उसको करने के. तो अनसर्टेनिटी की बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर पहली बात तो है क्या, दूसरा, अनसर्टेनिटी ऑफ द टर्म। ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट हैज सेड रिसेंटली कि भाई आप बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर बोले के लिए टर्म्स को लेके नहीं जा सकते, आपको कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन बताना पड़ेगा। मतलब सपोज करो मैंने बोला कि सेक्युलरिज्म इज द पार्ट ऑफ बेसिक स्ट्रक्चर, तो ऑनरेबल सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने बोला कि आप ये नहीं कह सकते इस कानून ने सेक्युलरिज्म को तोड़ा है, आप बताओ कि किस प्रोविजन को, सेक्युलरिज्म के किस प्रोविजन को तोड़ा है। ठीक है, ये एक इशू है, इस तरह से बताएंगे और लास्ट में कंक्लूड कैसे करेंगे, बैलेंस पे जो भी बताया। Now, Indian Constitution is not a borrowed copy. Come to the next question. Rather, it is an evolved document of Indian expression from Government of India Act, forming its own basis. तो कैसे शुरुआत करोगे? That Government of India Act 1935 contributed to 1, 2, 3 provisions. However, it is not a borrowed copy. कैसे borrowed नहीं है? पहला, it has been changed according to the needs and demands, है ना, नीड्स एंड डिमांड्स ऑफ द कंट्री। पहला पॉइंट ये बन जाएगा। तो इंट्रोड्यूस कैसे, गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया एक्ट और दी, ऐसे शुरुआत करो, द इंडियन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन हैज टेकन 1, 2, 3 फेडरलिज्म, ये डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन गवर्नर का, ऑफिस फ्रॉम 1935 Act, or a lot of administrative machinery has been taken from the Government of India 1935 Act. However, it will be wrong to say that it is a borrowed copy for following reasons. पहला रीजन, नीड्स एंड डिमांड्स के अकॉर्डिंग चेंज कर लिया है। दूसरा, देयर आर लॉट ऑफ प्रोविजंस व्हिच आर इंडिजिनस इन नेचर। सो फॉर एग्जांपल, ऑनरेबल बाबा साहेब अंबेडकर हैज हेल्ड दैट लिबर्टी, इक्वलिटी एंड फ्रेटर्निटी जो हमको लगता है हमने बाहर से ली है, जस्टिस जो बाहर से लिया है वो बाहर से नहीं लिया है, वो हमने भगवान बुद्ध से लिया है। वी हैव टेकन इट फ्रॉम लॉर्ड बुद्धा। ठीक है, उसके अलावा इंडिया को पार्लियामेंट्री डेमोक्रेसी ऑलरेडी आती थी। मतलब बाबा साहेब ने बोला है अपनी स्पीच में, जिसको ग्रामर ऑफ अनार्की बोला जाता है, that it is not that India did not know democracy. In Bhikshu Sanghas, in Bodh Sanghas, we had the devices which are known to the modern parliamentary democracy, such as motions, cut motions, resolutions, etc., etc. So we already had democracy, so it's not a borrowed thing. We are the mother of the democracy. Further, you can say that we have taken best of the best practices, है ना, we have changed them according to our needs. So for example, federalism, we are a federal country, however we had the concerns of the unity too, so we have put in some unitary provisions in that. We have taken the fundamental rights or other things from USA, but we have put our own reasonable restrictions on them. Similarly, the office of governor, the federal other things which has been taken from 1935 Act has been significantly changed according to the needs and demands of the situation. And you can conclude in the end that Indian Constitution is the cornerstone of the nation, and it will be wrong to call it a borrowed copy. Rather, it is a transformative document of the hopes of the aspirations of the people. इस तरह से खत्म कर लेंगे। Now, what do you mean by sovereignty? सेक्शन बी में आ जाते हैं। क्या मतलब है? क्या मतलब है जी सोवरेनिटी का? डिस्क्राइब द डिस्टिंक्शंस बिटवीन पॉपुलर एंड पार्लियामेंट्री सोवरेनिटी। इस बात पे बहुत लोगों को कंफ्यूजन होता है कि ये होता क्या है, होता क्या है सोवरेनिटी, होता क्या है इंटरनल सोवरेनिटी, एक्सटर्नल सोवरेनिटी, पॉपुलर सोवरेनिटी, जनरल विल, ये सब बड़ा कंफ्यूजन रहता है। चलिए एक एक करके समझते हैं। तो पहले, व्हाट डू यू मीन बाय सोवरेनिटी? सोवरेनिटी का मतलब आसान भाषा में समझें तो एक आजाद देश जिसपे ना बाहर का ना अंदर का कोई आदमी उसके ऊपर हो। सोवरेनिटी मीन्स इंटरनल एंड एक्सटर्नली देयर इज नो लॉ अबव द लॉ ऑफ द कंट्री। सो पहले हम लिखेंगे दैट इंडिया इज ए सोवरेन कंट्री, इंटरनली एंड एक्सटर्नली, है ना, सोवरेन कंट्री है, संप्रभु राष्ट्र हैं हम। हमारा एक संविधान है, एक कानून है, एक चुनी हुई सरकार है ना, हम एक रिपब्लिक स्टेट हैं। तो ये सब दिखाते हैं कि हम सोवरेन हैं। पहली बात तो ये हो गई। अब आती है पॉपुलर सोवरेनिटी एंड पार्लियामेंट्री सोवरेनिटी के बीच की लड़ाई। देखो, तीन चीज समझो इसमें, जुडिशियल सोवरेनिटी, पार्लियामेंट्री सोवरेनिटी एंड पॉपुलर सोवरेनिटी। जब संविधान बन रहा था, व्हेन द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन वाज बीइंग मेड, तो हमारे संविधान निर्माता जो थे, आवर कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन मेकर्स हैड वन इशू, वेदर वी शुड अडॉप्ट द ब्रिटिश मॉडल where the parliament is superior, they can do whatever they want to do. It is said that the British parliament cannot make a man woman or a woman man. Other than that, they can do everything, है ना? They can do everything and anything under the sun by making a law. पहला तो ये था. दूसरा तरीका था अमेरिकन वाला. In America, it is said that USA's constitution is whatever the judiciary says it is. Whatever the judiciary says or whatever the Supreme Court of the United States says, it is the Constitution of the United States. So दोनों के बीच में लड़ाई थी. हमने क्या चुना? मध्यम मार्ग. We chose the middle path, whereby neither the parliament is sovereign nor the judiciary or the Supreme Court is sovereign. We chose a middle path where the Constitution is sovereign, where the people are the source of authority, where there is an elected head, where there is office, where under the office all the offices are open to everyone. समझ में आई बात? ब्रिटिश सोवरेनिटी भी नहीं चुनी, नीदर वी चूज जुडिशियल सोवरेनिटी और जुडिशियल इंडिपेंडेंस एज इज इन यूएसए. वी चोज द मिडिल पाथ which establishes the constitution is sovereign. What is the first line in the Constitution of India? We the people of India. Who is this? Who is the source of authority of the Constitution? Who is above everybody else? It is we the people. And the sovereignty is neither with the parliament nor with the judiciary. It is with the Constitution, and in that it is with the people, distributed among the people. So that is the difference between popular sovereignty and the parliamentary sovereignty. In parliamentary sovereignty, the parliament is above everything else. They can do whatever they want to do. But in India, it is not the case. It is the Constitution which is supreme. It is the Constitution which is sovereign. It is the people who are the source of the authority. This is the difference between popular sovereignty and parliamentary sovereignty. So कैसे लिखोगे sovereignty की heading? In introduction you will write what the sovereignty means. There are two types, internal, external. Then you will come in the next para you will put a heading, difference between popular sovereignty and parliamentary sovereignty. You will write parliamentary sovereignty where parliament is supreme, they can do anything. Example लिखोगे. फिर you will come to India के case of India, neither parliament is supreme nor any other body is supreme. It is the Constitution which is supreme. Source of authority is the people. That is your popular sovereignty, because the will of the people, the general will of the people is the source of the authority. लिख दोगे? लिख दोगे. And now conclude करोगे. Conclude कैसे करोगे? इसमें you will today madhyam marg, middle path. You will write that the constitution makers have neither made judiciary supreme nor the parliament supreme. However, they have made the constitution supreme and source of everyone's authority. ठीक है जी. Now let's come to the next question. The chairman of the Rajya Sabha holds a pivotal role in upholding India's federal balance. कैसे करते हैं जी चेयरमैन ऑफ राज्यसभा बैलेंस होल्ड, ये हमको बताना है. तो कैसे शुरुआत करोगे आंसर की? हु इज द चेयरमैन ऑफ द राज्यसभा, है ना? व्हाट इज द कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल प्रोविजन एंड व्हाट इज हिज रोल. ठीक है. तो सबसे पहले लिखोगे व्हाट आर द डिफरेंट आर्टिकल्स व्हिच आर देयर. तो अगर संविधान है तो खोल लो, नहीं है तो एप्लीकेशन डाउनलोड करके वीडियो पॉज करके खोल लो. ठीक है. सबसे पहले लिखोगे आर्टिकल 89. What does the Article 89 says? The Vice President of India shall be the ex officio chairman of the Council of State. It has been provided in the Article 89. Then you would come to the demand of the question. Pivotal role in upholding India's federal balance. You will talk about. Then you would say, what does he do? Anna, what is his role in the voting? In rules and procedures, in the language provisions where the chairman of the council of house or the house in article 120, है ना? Article 120 says that chairman may allow for this and that, है ना? And then you can write Rajya Sabha is a continuing chamber. It never gets dissolved. It represents the states. So by being the ex officio chairman, the honorable vice president also sort of ensures that the grievances of the states are heard at the national level, थ्रू दी राज्यसभा मेंबर्स। ठीक है, तो इसमें 4-5 पॉइंट बनाने पड़ेंगे। क्या पॉइंट बनाने पड़ेंगे? पहला, ही उसको लिंक कर दो, लिंक इट विद द डिमांड ऑफ द क्वेश्चन। ही इंटरप्रेट्स रूल्स, प्रोसीजर्स, है ना, he ensures that members have enough time to talk, है ना, and he ensures there is no defection, he ensures what language can be used. So in this, since Rajya Sabha is a house of elders, since members are elected for representing states, है ना, in extension of that, the vice president also, or the ex officio chairman of the Rajya Sabha also furthers the India's federal balance। ठीक है, तो इसमें कुछ बना के लिखना पड़ेगा। पॉइंट वही रहेंगे, उसको लिंक करना है कि रोल ऑफ, क्योंकि अगर इसमें सवाल में प्रेसिडेंट लिखा हुआ होता तो बहुत आसान हो गया होता, है ना, बट सिंस चेयरमैन ऑफ राज्यसभा का है, तो बाई एक्सटेंशन, सिंस इज चेयरमैन ऑफ राज्यसभा, और राज्यसभा के मेंबर कहां से आ रहे हैं? स्टेट्स के एमएलए द्वारा चुन के आ रहे हैं, है ना, तो बाई एक्सटेंशन ही इज ऑल्सो फर्दरिंग इंडिया फेडरल बैलेंस। ठीक है, ये काम करना है। चलिए, directive principles of the state policy serves as guidelines for the government in formulating and implementing socio-economic policies। इसको कैसे करेंगे कि पार्ट किसमें दिया हुआ है? पार्ट 4 में। कहां तक दिया हुआ है? 37 से 51 तक ये दिए हुए हैं, डीपीएसपीज दिए हुए हैं। कैसे फर्दर करते हैं? दे प्रोवाइड्स फॉर ए वेलफेयर स्टेट पॉलिसीज, है ना, दे प्रोवाइड फॉर liberty, they provide for equality and fraternity among different classes। ठीक है, justice, sorry, not liberty, equality, fraternity, justice, socio-economic and political, sorry, ठीक है, they provide for socio-economic, political justice। then you would give examples, है ना, कैसे examples दोगे? whenever you will talk about equality provision, then you will give that government has made the provisions, or has made the rules for the equal salary, equal remuneration for male and female, which is given in the DPSP। then you will when you will talk about concentration of wealth, you will talk about different schemes which government is running to ensure there is equal, there is equality, there is economic justice, है ना। in this way you will pick up or use different policies of the government to show how DPSPs are working as a guideline, है ना, and then you can conclude in the end with the statement of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar। What does Baba Saheb says? That they are fundamental to any government, they are the best manifestos, है ना। इससे DPSPs are the best manifestos for any political party। they cannot be ignored despite not being justiciable, है ना। इससे एंड कर दोगे। तो शुरुआत कैसे करोगे? आर्टिकल मेंशन करके 37 से 51 पार्ट 4। फिर क्या लिखोगे? प्रोविजंस, या हाउ डू दे, सवाल क्या है? हाउ डू दे हेल्प और सर्व एज ए गाइडलाइंस। तो पहली गाइडलाइंस जस्टिस एस्टेब्लिश करते हैं, सोशियो इकोनॉमिक, पॉलिटिकल, एग्जाम्पल लिख दोगे। फिर इक्वलिटी की बात करोगे कि इक्वलिटी करते हैं, इक्वलिटी की फिर एग्जाम्पल इक्वल पे एंड रेम्यूनरेशन एक्ट लिखोगे। फिर कंसंट्रेशन ऑफ वेल्थ को रोकते हैं, रिडिस्ट्रीब्यूशन अलाउ करते हैं, तो एग्जाम्पल में लिख दोगे प्रोपोर्शनल टैक्सेशन, है ना। इस तरह से यू विल राइट ऑल द पॉइंट्स एंड देन यू वुड कंक्लूड इट। नाउ डिस्कस द मेरिट्स एंड डिमेरिट्स ऑफ इंप्लीमेंटिंग वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन। मेरिट्स क्या क्या है? पहले यू विल राइट दैट वन इलेक्शन, वन नेशन वन इलेक्शन और साइमल्टेनियस इलेक्शन has been talked about in recent past, considering the fact that India is in always election mode because of elections to at national level, at state level, and at grassroots level, or third tier elections. Then you will come to the merits and demerits. Merits में you would write that it will lead to better governance। क्यों? Because when elections are declared or announced, it leads to what? Model code of conduct, that leads to policy paralysis। then you would write better fiscal। why? Because frequent elections lead to again and again expenditure। once you do the elections at the same time, that can lead to saving of money। that then you'll write about security issues। when elections happen, a lot of paramilitary is moved throughout the country, that leads to a vacuum, or you can write, or challenges to internal security. Fourth, you'll write that when social harmony will also get impacted. Why? Because when frequent elections happen, they lead to calls for caste, religion, and communal violence takes place. When the frequency of the elections will reduce, these issue will come down. So in this way, you'll write the positives. Now let's talk about negative. Negative is that uh, state issues are different, central issues are different. People might get confused who to vote, because we have seen in the past that the results of the state elections and the union or to the parliament, member of parliament elections has been completely different in a lot of states. That is the first issue. Second issue, constitutional issues will be there, right? Third issue is what about in long term? Right now you have the issue of Article 356. When that is imposed, would you lead to elections again and again? Right? What would happen in the future? These issues are there which needs to be taken care of. Third, machinery cost can increase. You would need two sets of EVMs for state elections and for national elections. After 3-4 cycle, 5 cycles, they are anyways discarded, है ना? So that can not reduce the cost. ठीक है? These issues are there in the demerits. Concluded election commission report, law commission report, former president Sri Ramnath Kovind report, Niti Aayog report has said this, that, which I believe you must have read in your static portion. Honorable former president Ramnath Kovind ji's report has suggested it. Niti Aayog has suggested this. Law commission in 1999 report has suggested this with certain caveats. So you can say there can be one nation, two elections, so that elections happen in two cycles. One midterm elections that can happen after every 2.5 years, rather than always remaining in the election mode. Okay, in this way you can write this answer. Now let's talk about the asymmetrical federalism. What is asymmetrical federalism? Whereby every unit of the nation, that is your states, have different provisions for them, different rules for them, to ensure that the diversity which they have, the peculiar problems which they have, the demands which they might have, are addressed. So in India, do we have asymmetrical federalism? Yes, in the form of Article 371, in the form of your fifth schedule, in the form of your sixth schedule, in the form of language provisions, in the form of PESA Act, etc., etc. ठीक है? So asymmetrical federalism is necessary not only to come together but also to hold together. We can give the example that since we have asymmetrical federalism, that has not led to any civil war in India. If we look in Sri Lanka, if we look in Pakistan, that has led to a lot of issues. A separate country was created because Bengali language was not given priority by the Urdu, Punjabi speaking elites of the Western Pakistan, and Eastern Pakistan became Bangladesh. Same thing happened in between Tamil and Sinhalese. However, country was not divided, but Sri Lanka saw a long drawn civil war. So we have kept everyone together. When we address the diversity, when we address the peculiar problems of every state, then we have asymmetrical federalism, and the discontent decreases and the country remain united. There is also increase of fraternity. There is also increase in the plurality of the country. So in this way, you would mention some provisions that where is asymmetrical federalism. You would write how it has led to holding together model. Right? You can give the example of Article 370. You can give the example of Article 371. You can give the example of 5th schedule. You can give the example of 6th schedule. You can give example of union territories, how they have different demands and how their governance is different. ठीक है जी? In this way, you would address asymmetrical federalism. Now, let's come to the separation of powers. Next question: separation of powers along with the system of checks and balance is vital principle for Indian democracy. First of all, what is separation of power? We have three organs of the state: legislative, executive, judiciary. Legislative makes the law, executive implements the law, and judiciary decides that everything happens legally. Whoever is supposed to do their job, they are doing it right, they are not violating the constitution, and they are also remaining in the boundaries of the constitution. This is what is ensured by the judiciary. Why is separation of power is necessary? Because Montesquieu has held that if there will be no separation of power, there will be tyranny. Whoever is making the law is also implementing the law, is also adjudicating. This might lead to tyranny. This might lead to one organ becoming dictatorial or tyrannical. ठीक है जी. However, do we have complete separation of power in India? No, we do not. Why we do not? Because let me give you an example. The executive is selected or chosen from legislative. भाई अगर ये legislature है या let's say लोकसभा एंड राज्यसभा है, तो जो गवर्नमेंट में है, जो काउंसिल ऑफ मिनिस्टर है, वो भी तो यहीं से चुने जा रहे हैं. दे आर इलेक्टेड फ्रॉम हियर. सो हाउ कैन देयर बी कंप्लीट सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर? द पार्लियामेंट provides for the council of ministers. Yeah, council of ministers are also the member of the parliament, so there is no voter right separation. Similarly, when it comes to judiciary is the judges are removed on a motion which is passed by 2/3 members present and voting in absolute majority of the parliament. ठीक है. इसी तरीके से आर्टिकल 141 and 142 में the judiciary has certain powers whereby it can also create some kind of law when there is a vacuum, है ना. So in this way there is no separation of power. However, there is checks and balance. How there is a checks and balance? Legislature controls the finances. Legislature controls or can bring a bill or can bring a motion to remove council of ministers. That motion is called no confidence motion. Similarly, legislature can remove judges if they violate or if they misbehave or have incapacity, proved misbehavior or incapacity के केस में. Similarly, judiciary can ensure that the parliament does not make any law which is violating or which is not following the constitution or which violates the basic structure. So in this way, each organ controls some other organ in some way. Administrative control, financial control, ये सब controls हैं, ये checks and balance हैं. इसकी वजह से डेमोक्रेसी भारत में बनी हुई है. ठीक है. तो हम इसको लिखेंगे कैसे, फॉर्म कैसे करेंगे, आंसर डिस्कस करना है. दैट हाउ सेपरेशन ऑफ पावर विद चेक्स एंड बैलेंस इज वाइटल फॉर इंडियन डेमोक्रेसी. फर्स्ट we will say that India is a parliamentary democracy whereby legislature, executive and judiciary, three organs of the state, have their own respective work. However, then you will write how the separation of power works, है ना. The legislature का काम, executive का काम and judiciary का काम. Then you will write, however, the separation of power in India is not watertight, but there are checks and balances. Now you will talk about the checks and balances, and then you'll conclude that as held by Montesquieu, separation of power are the basis of democracy, and it is really true in the case of Indian democracy, and you will conclude it in this way. ठीक है जी. So all the best. अगले पेपर के साथ मिलते हैं अगली क्लास में. Thank you so much for joining. See you.